Chapter 53. Sun Qing died, but the matter was not over. The Sun family dared to attack me in broad daylight. It seems that the influence of the Lin family is almost gone. Yi Tian suddenly sighed. The Lin family once made a rule that the warriors of the Lin High base were not allowed to fight among themselves, nor were they allowed to kill anyone at will. But now, the Sun family's behavior completely ignored the Lin family. That's right, the Sun family is far stronger than the Lin family, and now that they are rooted in the Lin High base, they naturally don't take the Lin family seriously. Since the Sun family doesn't follow the rules, then I don't have to follow the rules. Yi Tian held the intermediate Yuan weapon in his hand, and his killing intent was palpable. With his current strength, what was the mere Sun family? Even if the two grandmasters from the Iron Tooth base made a move, he didn't care at all. As far as he knew, those two grandmasters were not very powerful. They were only in the early stage of grandmasters. As for whether they had special talents, it was unknown. But there were very few martial artists with special talents after all. If those two grandmasters did not have special talents, he was afraid that they would not even be able to catch him with a sword. He was almost invincible in the coastal base, so what else was there to fear? Let's make a big fuss. Yi Tian looked into the distance and muttered. 10 minutes later, at the gate of the Sun's residential area, Yi Tian came here alone, and the killing intent all over his body made the guards of the Sun family break out in a cold sweat. Stop, this is the Sun family. You leave quickly. The guard forcibly suppressed the fear in his heart and scolded. The Sun family doesn't exist today. Yi Tian's voice was full of murderous intent, which made several guards secretly feel bad. Go and call someone, one of the guards shouted. However, it was too late. A sword light filled their world. The sword light dissipated, several guards fell, and the gate of the Sun family also turned to powder. The residential area of the Sun family was not large, and the situation here was immediately exposed. As soon as possible, the Sun family's guards rushed over. The guards of the Sun family were all trained by the Sun family since childhood. Each of them had the strength of a martial artist, and the captain of the guard was an elite martial artist. The number of the entire guard was about 100, which was an indispensable and powerful force of the Sun family. Boom! Boom! 100 guards held Yuanli swords to form a battle formation, and their momentum could even compete with the great warriors a little bit. However, a cyan sword burst out, directly tearing the entire battle formation apart from the middle. Then, the cyan sword almost cut the entire Sun family's residential area in half along the way. Houses were shattered, and even the ground was cracked. It was a grandmaster's blow. The Sun family's guards were hit by Yi Tian, most of them were killed and wounded, and the rest of the guards also lost their fighting spirit, retreating in fear one by one. At this time, the high-level leaders of the Sun family also appeared one after another, their faces changing drastically. Grandmaster attack. The great elder of the Sun family, Sun Kong, who was at the peak of the great martial artist realm, said with a nervous face. An attack that could create such a powerful destructive power must be a grandmaster's attack power, and Yi Tian was obviously not a grandmaster. But even if he wasn't a grandmaster, Yi Tian had reached the grandmaster's attack power. The Sun family was not without the attack power of the grandmaster. Sun Kong himself possessed a grandmaster's attack power because he had a medium sword talent, and he had cultivated several bronze-level sword skills to the peak level of Dacheng, increasing his attack power by several times. In terms of attack power, his attack power was even much stronger than that of a newly promoted grandmaster, but his strength was much worse than that of a grandmaster. Because he couldn't beat the grandmaster's speed was much faster than him. There was a huge gap between the great warrior and the grandmaster, and once you stepped into it, both the defense and the speed would be turned upside down. In the face of the grandmaster, he could only resist a few moves. However, Sun Kong was glad that the person who came was not a grandmaster. At such a young age, he has the attack power of a grandmaster. This person is definitely a true genius. Sun Kong thought. At this time, Sun Feng shouted, "He is Yi Tian." As soon as these words came out, the audience was shocked. The Sun family was naturally no stranger to the name Yi Tian. It was Yi Tian who had made the Sun family lose face. If it weren't for the fact that the Sun family needed to stabilize the foundation of the Lin High base, otherwise Yi Tian would have been dealt with long ago. Unexpectedly, Yi Tian's strength was so strong. Yi Tian, The weapon in your hand belongs to my father. What about my father? Sun Feng's expression changed drastically as he stared at the intermediate Yuan force knife in Yi Tian's hand and asked in panic. Sun Qing, naturally dead. Yi Tian smiled faintly. Young man, are you here today to destroy my Sun family? Sun Kong walked over, faced Yi Tian, and asked. What do you say? When your Sun family sent someone to kill me, we were doomed to die. Yi Tian said coldly. Hey, if we knew that you were so powerful, our Sun family wouldn't have made a move on you. So why don't you do it today? Great Elder, he killed my father. Kill him quickly. Sun Feng was like a madman and yelled. Shut up! Sun Kong shouted at Sun Feng angrily. If it weren't for the trouble you caused, how could the Sun family have today? In fact, Sun Kong didn't really want to reconcile, but he didn't want to start a war with Yi Tian here. A martial artist with a Grandmaster level attack was not so easy to deal with, and the destructive power of the battle was too great. It was easy to affect other people. If they fought Yi Tian here, even if they succeeded in killing Yi Tian, the Sun family would basically be crippled. He tried to reconcile, and after Yi Tian left, he would besiege Yi Tian again. This was his plan. Unfortunately, his plan was doomed to fail. Reconcile? I'm sorry, I don't agree. I'll give you a chance, let's all go on. Yi Tian was a little excited. He really wanted to test how strong his combat power was. It was just an estimate before, and Sun Qing was too weak, so he didn't have the slightest desire to fight. He really wanted to know if the people of the Sun family could arouse his desire to fight, so he said so much nonsense, just waiting for the masters of the Sun family to gather here. After this point of conversation, almost all the masters of the Sun family had arrived. All the people below the Great Warrior are leaving. Sun Kong shouted. Whoosh! Swoosh! Swoosh! 2 great martial artists peeked, 7 great martial artists, a total of 9 great martial artists surrounded Yi Tian. The battle was on the verge of breaking out. Yi Tian glanced at it and saw through their talents. The highest talent was only a high-level cultivation talent, which was expected. If there was a top-level cultivation talent, the Sun family would have already given birth to a Grandmaster. In addition to the cultivation talent, 5 of the 9 great martial artists had sword skills, and 2 of them had sword talents. 2 of them had sword talents, and they were all medium sword talents. The enemy is not weak. Let's kill him together, Sun Kong hurriedly said. Chapter 54. The lion fights the rabbit with all his strength, and Sun Kong and other great martial artists naturally did not underestimate Yi Tian, attacking with all their might. However, before Sun Kong and the others could attack, Yi Tian took the lead. Speed talent, strength talent, shadow kill, 3 talents in a row. Although it wasn't Yi Tian's full attack, it was not to be underestimated. The key was that Yi Tian's speed was too fast as 12 times the speed of sound. Even the peak powerhouses of the great martial artists had no time to dodge. Poof! 2 ordinary great martial artists were targeted by Yi Tian. Their heads were cut off with a knife, and they died on the spot. It was all done in an instant. When Sun Kong and the others came back to their senses, they found that they had lost 2 great warriors, and there were only 7 great warriors left. This speed. Sun Kong's expression changed drastically. This was clearly not the speed of a great martial artist, but the speed of a Grandmaster, much faster than their speed. It's definitely a relatively advanced speed talent. Sun Kong was jealous. It was already a genius for a person to have a special talent. For example, although their Sun family was filthy and used internal marriage to maintain the continuation of the sword talent, how could other families not envy it? If you had 2 special talents, it was definitely a favor from heaven, and each talent level was not low, which made people even more jealous. You must kill him. Sun Kong's expression was firm. He knew very well that if he couldn't kill Yi Tian today, once Yi Tian really grew up, he could easily destroy the Sun family. Kill! A famous martial artist of the Sun family rushed towards Yi Tian as if he was suicidal. Puff, puff. A great martial artist died at the hands of Yi Tian, and he couldn't help Yi Tian at all. The difference in strength between the 2 sides was too big. This is the powerful Sun family? It's a little disappointing. After Yi Tian killed another great martial artist, he said in disappointment. These great warriors were no threat to him at all. Their speed was too slow, and their strength was weak as a baby who had just climbed in his eyes. Sun Ling, do it! Sun Kong shouted at Sun Ling, the only female great martial artist. This female great martial artist was another great martial artist peak powerhouse of the Sun family. She was very old and had not many years to live. Because she was a woman, she was slightly inferior to Sun Kong in status. He saw Sun Ling rushing towards Yu Tian with a resolute face, as if she was going to die together. At the same time, Sun Kong and the two great warriors who were still alive quickly retreated. Die! A hideous look appeared on Sun Ling's wrinkled old face. The next moment, Sun Ling's aura surged several times suddenly, and immediately exploded with a bang. Sun Ling's self-explosion was no less than the full force of a Grandmaster's blow, covering a radius of 100 meters. All the houses in this range were reduced to pieces, and even the ground was blasted out of a big hole. Although Sun Kong and the others retreated in time, because the time was too short, they were also affected, vomiting blood one after another, and their injuries were not light. Even if Yu Tian doesn't die, he will definitely be seriously injured. Sun Kong said excitedly. At such a close distance, no matter how fast Yu Tian was, it was difficult to dodge. Moreover, the self-explosion caused by Sun Ling's secret technique was all-round coverage, and it was difficult to avoid the key point at all. For a Grandmaster, such a self-explosion was useless, because a Grandmaster could resist it by defense. But Yu Tian was not a Grandmaster, and his defense was too much worse than that of a Grandmaster, and he would definitely not be able to stop such a self-explosion. It's just a pity for Sun Ling, Sun Kong said secretly. Compared with the survival of the Sun family, Sun Ling's death was very valuable. Meanwhile, the surrounding Sun family members cried excitedly. Yu Tian is finally dead, and our Sun family has been saved. Elder Sun Ling is so great. He actually died with the enemy. Ha ha ha. What's the use of Yu Tian's genius? Didn't he die at the hands of our Sun family? However, at this very moment, a mockery came from the dust mist. Are you rejoicing too soon? Yu Tian walked out of the dust and mist. His clothes were in tatters, but there was not the slightest injury on his body. No way. How could you be okay? Sun Kong was so frightened that he took a step back, and there was no trace of blood on his entire face. The other Sun family members also turned pale, and their eyes were full of despair. It was Elder Sun Ling's self-detonating blow, comparable to the full strength of the Grandmaster's blow, and it was a covering attack. Without a Grandmaster-level defense, there was no way to block it safely. But Yu Tian blocked it without injury. However, only Yu Tian himself knew that he did not block it, but was hit hard. His defense was indeed a flaw. Although he fled quickly at 12 times the speed of sound, he was still a step too late. He didn't expect a great martial artist to detonate himself with secret arts. If he had guessed earlier, he would not have given Sun Ling a chance to blow himself up. However, he was still within a few dozen meters of the self-detonation center, so just relying on the defense of an elite martial artist, he was only severely damaged, and with the recovery of the top healing talent, the injury was stabilized in more than 10 seconds. At the very least, there were no wounds on his surface. Careless. Yu Tian had to admit that he underestimated the great martial artist too much, but he wouldn't now. Run! Sun Kong shouted. Immediately, he was the first to escape. However, no matter how fast he was not as fast as Yu Tian. With a flash of light, Yu Tian caught up with Sun Kong. In the next moment, Sun Kong's body fell to the ground. In just one breath, Yu Tian killed Sun Kong in seconds. Just as Yu Tian was about to start killing, a heavy voice came from not far away. Xiaoyu, can you give me a face? It's okay to let these Sun family members go? As soon as the words fell, an old man dressed in white appeared in Yu Tian's sight. Grandmaster. Yu Tian recognized the other party's identity at a glance. The Grandmaster level momentum was undoubtedly revealed, and it was not comparable to a great martial artist. Soon, this Grandmaster came within 50 meters of Yu Tian. Check. Human. Yao Yi. Cultivation talent. High. It turned out to be just an ordinary Grandmaster. Yu Tian no longer paid attention to it. Judging from the opponent's advanced cultivation talent, his cultivation must only be in the early stage of the Grandmaster. In the early days of the Grandmaster, his strength was only more than 1 million Jin at most. Even if he had 1.5 million Jin of strength, plus the increase in Yuan Li, it was only 3 million Jin of strength. Yi Tian's maximum attack power could reach 6 million caddies. As for speed, it would be good for an ordinary grandmaster to have 10 times the speed of sound, but Yi Tian was 12 times the speed of sound, which also crushed this grandmaster. The real strength of this grandmaster was defense. But as long as Yi Tian didn't let the other party hurt himself, his defense was dispensable. In terms of strength, this grandmaster was inferior to him. Why should I give you face? Yi Tian said neither humbly nor arrogantly. The old man Yao Yi glanced at Yi Tian deeply, relying on old decay as a grandmaster.